This past year, Ralph Lauren received $66.7 million as his one-year total compensation, while Bob Iger, CEO of Walt Disney Company, received $29.02 million. These numbers are extremely large, and it is difficult to determine if they are appropriate. Whether the desired career path is to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a farmer, all of us will be part of a business or an organization. With that comes the issue of pay we receive. For tonight's Sunday debate, we welcome Professor Petit of Economics and Business at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Dr. Soma, Professor of Economics at Harvard University, to discuss the controversial topic of the amount of pay CEOs receive. Representing the side for this argument will be Professor Petit, and against will be Dr. Soma.
Hello. We've met before at several different occasions where we discuss this topic, but I'm glad to be able to show our sides for the first time on television. Though it's likely that we will not reach the same conclusion, I enjoy listening to and learning from other points of views.
Yes, it is a pleasure to discuss this topic with you once again, Dr. Soma. So let's just get right into it. CEOs are paid over 300 times more than the average worker, which is shown in the bar graph next to me, and over 700 times more than the workers working for minimum wage. The average salary in the United States of the average worker in 2013 was just above $35,000, while the average salary of CEOs was over $11 million. As you can see, this bar graph has a skewed left shape since the United States has the largest ratio of CEO to average worker pay and is somewhat of an outlier in this specific set of data. Now, if that's not crazy, I don't know what is.
Hi, I just want to put it out there. CEOs are paid an appropriate amount. A good one is worth a lot to a company and its shareholders, and a bad one can destroy a lot of value. This meaning, most are actually paid according to market value and performance. In addition, my fellow Tim Worstall at the Adam Smith Institute in London agrees with me because, quite frankly, CEOs who are paid large amounts of money add more value to the company than it costs to employ their employees. Now, if we take a look at this graph, you can see a scatter plot of stock return rank of companies versus CEO pay. The points are randomly spread out, and there really does not seem to be a correlation. In fact, the correlation coefficient squared determined from the least squares line is 0.01. But when you think about this, the number is pretty large, considering the fact that there are so many other things that go into leading and directing a successful business, such as sustainability, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. Stock return is only a tiny fraction that accounts for good business performance.
Although that is a valid statement, CEO compensation is primarily based off of competitive markets. It does not make sense that CEOs are paid so much, especially since in 1965, CEOs were paid 24 times more than the average worker. The graph displayed next to me shows the growth in the ratio of pay for CEOs to the average worker in America and how it has grown immensely, shown by the skewed right shape of the graph. Also, in the previous graph I was referring to, the ratio in the United States is much bigger than it is in any other country. Although some countries are experiencing problems such as economic decline or poor working conditions for unskilled workers, does not mean that workers should face such drastic unequal pay. Nor does it explain that the ratio is the biggest in the United States of America and much smaller everywhere else. Unskilled workers contribute to companies such as clothing stores, grocery stores, especially in countries like the Philippines or China, where goods are exported to the US of A. They receive little pay but work for long hours. Although CEOs deserve higher pay, the problem is that workers, skilled or unskilled, are not being paid enough and CEOs are overcompensated.
To a certain extent, I can agree with you on this, but then again, being a CEO is one of the most challenging jobs in the world. The amount of contribution to the company is drastically different. Next to me is a graph which proves the validity of high CEO pay with another factor. This other factor, which can be said to have a large impact on how much a CEO receives, is the company headcount, or FTE. This shows very clearly that as the number of FTEs increase, CEO salaries increase as well. This is close to a linear line, so it is almost a direct correlation, and proves that almost always an increase in FTEs makes CEO pay increase. It makes sense because most of the time, more full-time employees increase productivity, which then leads to higher profits. All the CEOs that the public knows about who receive overwhelmingly high compensation is due to the fact that these companies are global and employ thousands. You could not compare the hard work that a CEO does to lead a global company consisting of workers worldwide to one skilled average worker.
This is a very controversial topic, and I admit both of our arguments are valid. Although we could not reach a concrete conclusion, it was great being able to discuss this subject matter with you, Dr. Soma.
Yes, it was a pleasure. It's important we keep this issue fresh at the back of our minds as we transition into a society consisting of distinct social classes. Thank you for tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and join us next Sunday at 9 on the issue of abortion.